And good afternoon, everybody. This is E. Marcel Portut, and welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Inquirer show, or the Gridiron Blitz. We're still trying to figure out what we're actually going to name this show. It's condensed for several reasons. One, we're on a time budget, but also it's going to be all football all the time. It's going to be our NFL preview. We're going to go over all of our predictions as far as who we think are going to win the divisions, and you get my Super Bowl pick and all of that fine stuff. We may touch on the U.S. Open tennis tournament and the men's national team against Mexico and during the international break, but we may not be able to get to that towards the end of the show. But as always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word for our social media platforms. Head to the site itself, thesportsinquirer.net. Go to Facebook, The Sports Inquirer, or Sports Inquirer. We have two separate pages on there. And finally, subscribe to our items on YouTube and SoundCloud under The Sports Inquirer. Make sure you check us out there, and you'll get all of our archived shows of the past, including the Sports Inquirer show. We've done Verbal Submission, which is our MMA combat sport podcast. We also have Stagger Screen, which I think I have archived those. I need to check, but those have been our basketball or NBA shows. So we have a lot going on the site, and if you subscribe to us, I said on YouTube and SoundCloud, you'll get all of those items. Also, our interviews with various coaches and players are on YouTube and SoundCloud. So I highly recommend that you check those out and make sure you keep supporting everything that we do, and we're very grateful for that. We'll go straight into the NFL portion of our show and predictions. Like I said, we'll keep these pretty short and sweet, and I'll have my thoughts on each division and who I have representing AFC and NFC in the Super Bowl and everything like that. Let's start with the AFC, which I think has been New England's domain for many years, all multiple championships with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. But I think it's a little deeper than you would think when you break it down. In the AFC East, I still have New England winning the division. I have the Jets finishing in second, Buffalo in third, and Miami in fourth. New England's won this division for many years under Belichick and Brady. I think the Jets are much improved, maybe improved enough to make the playoffs. We'll get to that. But I was Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell obviously signing with them in the offseason. So I have the Jets at 2. Buffalo. Josh Allen, I think, is improving as a quarterback, but I look at the structure of the team, and I don't see much beyond maybe 6 wins at the most. And then Miami, who has really revamped their entire team and not for the best. Just trade away Tunsil, maybe their best player on the entire team. He is now Houston Texan. That's part of the Jadeveon Clowney deal with Houston going to Seattle and everything like that. So in essence, they traded Stills as well, who was a very productive wide receiver for them. So Miami, they are in tank mode, which is odd to say when the NFL team, we usually think of tanking in the NBA and now even with Major League Baseball to move up the board or move up your slot in the upcoming draft. NFL, you'll sometimes see that we've had suck for luck. We've had, Andrew Luck when he came out of Stanford. We've had different scenarios of top guys. Usually at the quarterback position, you'll see teams make moves, maybe to move up and get a better chance of it. And in the NBA, obviously with the lottery, the worse your record is, you have a chance to improve your odds of getting a top pick or being a top 3 or 4. In the NFL, it's usually not like that. It's very hard to tank or to intentionally lose games. Just the competitive nature of the sport, it's only 16 games. It's hard to pull off. But you look at Miami, they are in complete rebuild mode. I personally think that them starting Fitzpatrick over Josh Rosen, he's even more of an indicator of that. You would think, hey, Fitzpatrick has won more games than Rosen in his career, sure. But if they really were looking to develop a quarterback, you have Rosen on a rookie deal already in your system, and that would be the guy you would think they'd want to play. They're not doing that. They're going with Fitzpatrick. And Fitzpatrick, and he'll go win some games, maybe too many if to get that number 1 or 2 spot. But I think that they are intentionally losing games so that they can be in the top 3 or 4. Maybe get Tua out of Alabama or Justin Herbert out of Oregon or some other quarterback. Jalen Hurts, I don't know. They're looking to tank to get a quarterback or a top-line player. So saying all that, that's why I have Miami finishing dead last in the AFC East. AFC South is under some upheaval because of the quarterback position. I had Indianapolis winning the division before they were able to do well in that division last year and be a playoff squad under Andrew Luck. Luck retired in the middle of the preseason, so he's not playing in the foreseeable future. I'll say this about Luck, because I don't think we've done a show and be able to address his retirement. I did not mind the retirement. I understand it's his body. He can do whatever he wants, but the timing of it was brutal. And your corresponding response to that, I'm sure you're saying, is the NFL, they can cut players at any time they want. That's a fair point too, but it goes both ways. He has a contract. He's committed to the team, and if he wanted to retire, which he did not just think about retiring that night in that preseason game. And he talked about it. He's been rehabbing in different injuries over the past few years. He's walking away from a lot of money, so that's respect to him for that. Well, not respect, but it seems very credible that he is walking away from a good amount of cash. But the reality is that you have to give your team a heads up if you're trying to come off as he does, as like this honorable guy and respectful and I'm doing what's best for everybody. Just announce your retirement in March before the draft, and that's fine. But it leads me to my second point. I think he's going to come back and play again. He's in his early 30s. I think he's 30 or 31. He's going to see other players in his position not perform as well as he has. And yes, could he use a redshirt year in essence and sit out a year, get his body right? I could definitely see that. And I think that's why their angst is not as hard from the Indianapolis side, because he's under contract with them. If he was trying to pull a scenario like a Barry Sanders or Calvin Johnson with the Lions, when they retired, there's not only physically they're dealing with things, but also with the Lions franchise and wanting to not play for them anymore. I think Luck is he's not in that same scenario. I think he still has some play in him. He just needs some time off, and he could have done the IR and still gotten paid, but I think there was a line drawn maybe as well. And it's all speculation. It'll come out eventually, but I think he may have wanted to do IR and say, I don't know if I'm going to play this year. And the Colts may respond as like, if you go on IR, you're going to have to play. And he didn't want to do that. So in the end, he decided to retire and move on. What that does, though, is that knocks the Colts, I think, not only out of winning the division, but out of the playoffs. And Brissett is a good quarterback. We've seen him do well in spurts. But to be a full-time starter over 16 games, I don't think he's going to be enough for the Colts to do well. And speaking of the second quarterback in the division of intrigue is Nick Foles with Jacksonville. The Jaguars have had some very strong teams, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but they've had inconsistent quarterback play with Blake Bortles. But now they bring in a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a guy who did very well last year as well with Philadelphia when Wentz got hurt and led them to the postseason and even got a playoff win in Chicago. So I think he brings a lot of stability to Jacksonville. But in the end, I still have the Texans winning the AFC South. I just look at the talent of that team. Yes, Clowney is now gone, but I thought he was, I won't say overrated, he was solid. Very good run defender, but the way people are talking about him and leaving the team is like this is a Watt or an Aaron Donald leaving the team, or a Von Miller. He's not in that class, not in that category. And I think bringing in Tunsil at left tackle is very beneficial for Deshaun Watson and protecting him. And they need and I'm banking on a full healthy season from Watson. And that's a lot to ask because he's had his injury nicks here and there. And overall, though, I think he's going to find a way to stay healthy. I think with the player, they did lose Miller to the torn ACL at running back. That hurts them quite a bit. But overall, I think the Texans find a way to win that division and be in the playoffs. And then Tennessee, finishing last in the division. I don't trust Mariota. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, either one, whoever starts. And I just think the talent level is not there for Tennessee compared to the other teams. AFC North, very intriguing division because I've seen arguments for 3 teams in the division of winning it. We've seen from Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Baltimore. I'm personally going with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win the division. Yes, they lose Antonio Brown, and we'll get to Antonio when we get to the AFC West when we're previewing the Raiders. But losing him is a major asset. I know he had his issues, we'll call it that, but still him leaving's a lot. Le'Veon Bell, he did not play at all for the Steelers, and you saw them kind of struggle offensively. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. So for them to go from a non-playoff team to a division winner is a bit of a leap, but I trust the system that they have overall in Pittsburgh. I think Roethlisberger still has a good year in him left. I think Mike Tomlin, he's really under the fire now and needs to step up, and I think he'll do that. I like Smith-Schuster at wide receiver, really getting even more of balls and more opportunities there. James Conner, being a full-time running back, I think he's going to maturate into that spot. And then you look at the defense, which has not been very consistent. I like Devin Bush, the rookie linebacker that they drafted out of Michigan. I think he'll bring a little bit of stability to that inside spot that they lost when Shazier went down with his injury. So I think overall, I think Pittsburgh finds a way to win the division. Now, Cleveland is an intriguing team. Lots of bells and whistles. Baker Mayfield's second year. You expect a maturation there. Odell Beckham Jr., him teaming up with Landry, him going to the Browns. You have a lot going on with Cleveland. A lot of optimism. I still think, though, that the Steelers are the better overall team and will win the division. But Cleveland, I'll say they will be a playoff team. I think the Browns find a way to get into the postseason, but I still think Pittsburgh finds a way to win that division. Baltimore is a team I've seen people say that they can win the division as well. I don't trust the quarterback play in Lamar Jackson. It's not necessarily Jackson, but I think this approach of running the ball the majority of the time, and they may be the only team in the NFL that's going to have that formula throughout the year and intentionally doing that. I think that limits them quite a bit, and they rely so much on the defense. And I think the defense, while very good, is not going to be able to keep that type of play up. And you're going to have to be able to score points at some point during the season. And I don't think Baltimore's offense allows them to be able to pull that off. So that's why I have the Ravens at third. The Bengals, new coach, A.J. Green out for possibly half of the season. The Bengals are a pretty easy pick to finish last in the AFC North. The AFC West, I think, is pretty straightforward as well. Well, I say unlike the AFC North, though, where I can see three teams winning, the West really comes down to one team, maybe two. Kansas City, you have Mahomes, MVP, a guy that I think could be the Offensive Player of the Year or another MVP type season again. They've signed Tyrann Mathieu at that cornerback. He's going to be able to protect the slot, do some safety work as well, and help improve that defense. And that's very big for the Chiefs because you saw when that AFC Championship game against New England. Now, granted, if Dee Ford wasn't offsides, they win that game, and that would have been a championship for them. But you also look at what Brady was able to do in that second half and in overtime, moving the ball. I think the Chiefs have improved their defense, and that's going to lead them. They'll win a division pretty easily, I think, but that's where they're going to be a very big contender in the AFC overall. The Chargers are finishing second. LA has a lot of talent, but I think this Melvin Gordon injury. Now, granted, you could say they have some other running backs there that can play, and that's true. But I just feel every year you look at one or two teams that made the playoffs last year not making it the next year. In the AFC, I think it's the Colts are going to regress, and I think the Chargers are going to regress and not be a postseason squad. And that's why I have them finishing second. Denver is third. Joe Flacco, I think, is a short-term plan at quarterback, but not a very good one. So that's why I have them at third. And then fourth is Oakland and the whole Antonio Brown saga. And this isn't the forum to really break it down deeply, but I will just say this. I think there's obviously many sides to the story, and I think all parties have not performed well. And I look at it from, I'll say the Raiders and then Antonio Brown. I think Brown has been immature, has not been focused on the right things, from the helmet issues to burning his feet with the cryotherapy treatment in the off season, not taking care of himself in that regard, and not reporting the practice or treatments, really the basic things. And now I guess he's gonna play this year. He may had a heartfelt, I say in quotes, apology to the team. I'd have the same heartfelt apology if I was going to miss out on $30 million. And there was a way for the Raiders to release him by the first game and not have to pay him at all and with that contract. And he found a way to finesse them and to keep him on the team. And we'll see what happens there. As far as the Raiders go, you knew what you're getting with Antonio Brown. Everyone's saying, like, oh, the Steelers did a very good job covering up all of his antics while he was there. NFL is a very insular league. The Raiders knew exactly what was going on in Pittsburgh, from him missing practices to not being respectful to the coaches and the fellow players. All the things that we're saying that the Steelers hid, the Raiders knew all of that stuff that went down. So for the Raiders, they knew exactly what they were signing up for. Mayock is being the front or the fall guy as far as what Gruden goes. I think in the end, the Raiders realized that we gave away 2 draft picks for him. We've signed him to a $30 million deal of guaranteed money. We may as well just bring him on, see what happens. Now, half of his money half that $15 million, I believe, is guaranteed now. That he's gonna, if he plays on the one game on Monday night against Denver, he'll get that $15 million. So they'll probably just grin and bear it for one season if he has any mishaps, whatever they are. Even though they've let a lot slide already, I don't see how they can change their tolerance policy of, oh, he missed a practice, let's cut him. He's already done that, or he yelled at a player or yelled at a coach and called him a inflammatory name. He's already done that, and he's still in the team. So I don't know if there's going to be one thing that's going to change the mood while he's in practice or in a game that's going to that's going to make the Raiders want to cut him. But whatever it is, they're just going to stick with them. And in the end, they're still going to be a 4-win team at best. I don't see any optimism just on the field. And Brown, he's a talented player. He's on the Hall of Fame path as far as his career goes. But even with him, if you show up to every practice, if he's been a model citizen, I still don't think the Raiders are going to win that many games. Their talent's just not there. But so that's what I see with the AFC divisions. And so I have the Patriots, the Texans, Steelers, and Chiefs winning the division. And my wildcard teams, I have Cleveland making the playoffs for the first time in a long time. And I have the New York Jets. I'm very high on Sam Darnold. I think this is his breakout year. I'm still holding out hope. I say holding out hope. It doesn't affect my day, but I still think he's going to be a better NFL quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Now, Mayfield had a better rookie campaign, but I think Darnold, long term, if you do the long play, is going to have a better career than Mayfield. I think he shows that now. I love the draft pick that they made with Quentin Williams, who's my defensive rookie of the year for the lineman from Alabama on defense. He's going to help out a bit. Le'Veon Bell, I think, will be a very engaging player for the Jets. Adam Gase, a head coach. I'm not a big fan of his, but I think offensively he can do some things. And overall, that's why I have the Jets making the playoffs. My AFC Championship, I have the Chiefs beating the Patriots in the title game. So the Chiefs get revenge and make it to the Super Bowl. So that's my AFC pick. And let's see. Let me just make a mark here. All right, we're at the 20-minute mark. We're good. Yeah, so I'm going to now go to the NFC. And I think it's a deep, deep conference. I can make a case for Philadelphia, Dallas, the Saints. I'm going by the Falcons, the Bears. They looked terrible last night, but we'll get to that. The Packers, the Rams. I'm going to say the Seahawks as well. So that's 8 teams I think have a chance to win that conference and get to the Super Bowl if things break right for them. That's really 2 from each division, so it's some synergy there. I've seen Carolina as a sleeper. I don't think so. Even the Vikings, I don't know about that as well. But the point is that it's a very deep conference and some very deep divisions as well. And we'll start with the NFC East. I'm very high on the Eagles. I have them winning the division. I'm going even further than that, if you get my drift, as far as Super Bowl pick. But I think the Eagles, they have depth and strength on both lines of play. I think Wentz is going to have another. So I was talking about Deshaun Watson. I'm saying the same things about Carson Wentz. I think he has a healthy year. He's going to be upright for the entire year. And I think when he's healthy, I don't know if he's at the Mahomes level as far as like the guys who are like 30 and under as far as the elite quarterbacks, but he's right there with Watson and and with Goff and Dak. He's right there, maybe better than all of them. I think his injury issues 2 years ago, the torn ACL, and last year with the back injuries that cut his years short, he's gotten forgotten. That's interesting. People don't remember how good he has been when he's been on the field. So I think he, along with just Deshaun Jackson's a very big help for them at wide receiver, along with Jeffrey as far as the targets. You have Ertz at tight end. And then defensively, they keep adding to their defensive rotations. I think the Eagles are going to have a very big year. So I have them winning the East. The Cowboys, if you can avoid the distractions from Zeke's contract to Dak to just the general attention the Cowboys get, they have a very good team. The offensive line is strong. I think you have Elliott, who you can argue is the best running back in the NFL. He's in maybe top 2 or 3. I think Dak is a very solid quarterback. Amari Cooper is a top 5 receiver, I think, in the league. And the line is very strong. And then defensively, you have Van Esch and Jalen Smith, strong linebackers. You look at the defensive line with Dexter Lawrence. He's rushing. He got paid. And the defense is the secondary is very strong. The Cowboys on paper, and that's why you looked at I think the NFL did their top 100 players that they had the players voted for. And I know it's not the most accurate look at top players, but the Cowboys, I think, had 10 guys in that top 100. And Dak didn't even make it. Their quarterback didn't even make that list. So that shows that the talent is there, and it's on every level, as I mentioned, from the line to the linebackers and the secondary. They just have an elite player at every level. Yet I still have them finishing second in the division. They'll make the playoffs, but it's the Cowboys. They find a way to mess it up. I think the Giants and Washington, teams that you're going to see their first-round picks playing by the end of the year. I think you'll see Haskins in Washington. And I think Daniel Jones actually does find a way to play this year for the Giants. Eli's back for another year, but the Giants are going to have a really slow start to their campaign. And I think at a certain point, you draft a guy like Jones in the top 10, the quarterback out of Duke, he's going to play. And I think he's going to play by midseason, and that's going to tick the Giants down quite a bit. And Barkley, who someone says is the best running back in the NFL, I think he's right there. He's going to get the ball a lot. He's going to get beat up, and he's going to produce. He's going to put up some really good numbers. I think he's right in line to be an offensive player of the year because he's just going to have so many touches and opportunities to produce numbers and yardage. But in the end, I just don't think that's going to lead to a winning formula. So that's why I have the Eagles winning that division with Dallas being in the playoffs. NFC South, Saints win the division. I know that they have everyone's a year older, including Drew Brees, and Brees had a very strong first half of last year. Second half, not so much, and then you kind of saw him wearing down. I think he's going to keep it up for one more year. It's kind of like Roethlisberger. I see one more elite year from him. Losing Mark Ingram is going to be a very underrated aspect. It's a move. Ingram's with the Ravens now. I don't think it's been talked about enough. I know Kamara is a special talent at running back, but him and Ingram were able to spell each other and get that rotation going. I don't know if Kamara is going to be – he's never going to be a guy who carries it 30, 35 times a game or even touches the ball that many times. But I think losing Ingram does hurt them a little bit, but I still believe that they can win that division. Atlanta, I have them finishing second in the division, not a playoff team. But as far as the Falcons go, and we covered them here in Atlanta. That's where we're based, so we get to see every day the things that are going on. I think that, and they're kind of like Dallas light. You look at Matt Ryan, Pro Bowl player, former MVP, he's strong. I think Julio Jones, if he plays on Sunday, I think he's going to play. There's some bickering about his contract and him maybe playing or not playing. I think he's going to be on the field. He's, some would say, the best wide receivers in the league. I agree with that. So he's strong. Devonta Freeman, he has injury bugs as well at running back, but when he plays, he's not top 5, but he's very serviceable. And then you look at the defense. I think the secondary, Ricardo Allen and some of the other guys, and Trufant, I think there's a solid group. Linebackers, Deion Jones, who got compensated. He's right there as far as one of maybe the top 2 or 3 middle linebackers in the entire league. And then Keanu O'Neal, another guy in the secondary that does well. And you look at the Falcons as well. Those guys got injured early in the season, and I think that really hurt the defense. And with as far as Allen, Keanu O'Neal, and Deion Jones, and that really hurt the Falcons' defense overall. And then on the line, and it ties to the offensive line as well, I just don't think the line play for the Falcons is good enough to win a division or be a playoff team. You have 2 rookies that they're trying to incorporate into the starting lineup on the line, on offense. I don't think that's going to work out well. They'll be okay, but that's going to be a lot of growing pains and a lot to rely on them. I think Grady Jarrett, he got paid this offseason. Very good interior lineman, but he's not going to just be that dominant force that's going to change the entire look. I think Takk McKinley, another year in the system, he's going to have a really good year, I believe. Vic Beasley, I don't know. He could have 10 sacks or 3 sacks this season. You never know. There's a lot of questions with the Falcons as far as that goes. I think they'll have it could be a winning record, but I don't think they could have 7 wins or 9 wins or maybe even 10. But I don't think they're consistent enough on all the levels to, especially on the line. That's where they get hurt the most. The lack of line play, I think, is going to do them in this year. Carolina and Tampa, I think Carolina's a good team. They're okay. Cam Newton's a strong player. He's got to stay healthy for an entire year and not get dinged up. I'm concerned about that. Same thing on the defensive side with Carolina. Tampa, I know Arians there now, new head coach. Jameis Winston has never been the answer for them. And to think that, Arians has worked with all types of quarterbacks and is a quarterback whisperer. I just don't think Winston is going to be enough to do anything for that squad. So that's why I have the Bucs finishing in last place. NFC North, when I did my predictions, and I put it out on Twitter, which is the official way of locking in your picks, because I wasn't able to record the show before the Bears and Packers game. I actually have the Bears winning the division, the Packers finishing second, Minnesota third, and Detroit fourth. I'm sticking with it, but man, if you saw last night's game, the Bears' defense is very strong, maybe the best in the NFL. Offensively, there is so many I think there's a disconnect between quarterback and coach. Mitch Trubisky is an average quarterback at best. You've seen him he's played his 3rd year in the NFL, drafted ahead of Mahomes and Watson in the same draft class. He's an average quarterback. He is what he is. And he's not gonna hit a reset button or flip a switch and become an elite talent. He's an average quarterback, maybe top 15 at best in the NFL, maybe top 10. There's some bad quarterback play out there. But then you have Nagy, the head coach, trying to do way too much with Trubisky. You have a limited quarterback running all of these different sets and scenarios and all the movement and things like that, when in reality you just need to hand the ball off. They ran the ball less than 20 times last night in their loss to Green Bay, when I thought running the ball was pretty effective. In Montgomery, he only got a handful of touches. When you have a limited quarterback, you have to find a way to use your resources and do things better. And I think they're treating Trubisky like he is a Goff, or he's a Carson Wentz, or not Mahomes, but a guy that they make play calls and treat him a lot better, or I think he's a lot better quarterback than he actually is. And that's what I saw last night. I still have them winning the division because I think they're going to still win a good amount of their regular season games. And Green Bay, I gotta give them credit. That defense looked very good. Now the defense was going against Trubisky, so there's only so much you can take from that. But I think Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be more comfortable in that offense. He got sacked a lot. There was a lot of confusion with that new system that under LaFleur that he's having to play under. But I think Rodgers will figure it out. They'll find a way to. They're not going to score 10 points every single game. They'll do much better than that. But in the end, if I did this before the game, if I did it now, I'd probably flip Green Bay and Chicago. But I got to stick with my picks. Minnesota. Good defense. Adam Thielen, top receiver. Dalvin Cook, you got to figure another year healthy after his knee injury, his rookie campaign. He's going to be a little bit healthier. I just don't trust Kirk Cousins. Matthew Stafford at Detroit. Detroit has a solid defense. Could be potentially top 10. I just don't trust Matt Stafford to do anything. So that's why those guys take up the rear in the NFC North. NFC West, pretty clear cut to me. The Rams, defending champs in that division. They returned everybody. They're going to roll. I think Gurley's knee injury or leg issues, whatever they are, yeah, you can say that's a bit of a concern, but I think they'll find a way to still win that division and keep it going. Seattle is my other wild card. So I have the Eagles, the Saints, the Bears, and the Rams winning the divisions, and then the Cowboys and the Seahawks as my wild cards. I think the addition of Clowney on a walk year in that scenario is going to be very good for him in his career. I think he helps to improve a already strong defense. I think Russell Wilson has emerged himself as a potential top 5 quarterback in the league, and I think they're ready to make a good move and get into the postseason. San Francisco and Arizona, I think quarterback questions on both those teams and just lack of talent, especially on the Cardinals side. I know everyone wants to question Kyler Murray and if he can play, and then hiring Cliff Kingsbury, which I'm not a supporter of. And I think he's a very average coach at best in college, and now he's going to be in the NFL. I don't think they're going to have a very good year. And I don't think it's necessarily because of that offense and because of Kyler Murray. They just don't have talent. Their line play is very, very bad on both sides of the ball. And if you don't have a good line, just like I said with the Falcons, you can have Kyler Murray, and they have Johnson, the very good running back, and Fitzgerald at receiver, who's a Hall of Famer himself. You have all of that, but if you can't protect the quarterback or get to the quarterback, you're going to be an average team. And that's what we're seeing right now with the Cardinals. And then San Francisco, Garoppolo, he's got to give me a full year. He's coming off the ACL injury. I'm very skeptical of guys coming off of knee injuries, and that's what I'm concerned about with him. So I don't think those teams are playoff squads. And NFC playoffs, I have the Eagles defeating the Saints in the NFC Championship game and getting to the Super Bowl. I think it's the Eagles' year. And matter of fact, I have the Eagles winning the Super Bowl over Kansas City. So that's my Super Bowl pick. As I said, I think Wentz, he's my MVP pick, by the way. We'll get to the individual picks in a minute. But I think it's his year. I think he's – and I'm banking a lot on – and back injuries. I'm doing the bad back right now. I strained something, and it's a few weeks now. I'm having to take medicine, stretching, and if you take one bad walk or sit down the wrong way, it jacks your back up. And I'm just an average man trying to live my life. NFL quarterback, you're going to get hit in that body part. It's something to be concerned about. But I'm taking a chance, and I think he's going to find a way to stay healthy enough. So he's my MVP. I think Pat Mahomes will be the offensive player of the year. He's going to put up some very good numbers, just the system and the way he plays. So that's my offensive guy. I think Saquon Barkley is a guy you got to watch out for in that spot. And Michael Thomas as well. I think those guys are going to put up some very, very big offensive numbers and put up some – Deshaun Watson as well. I think that he's going to be able to – without the running game, he's going to throw the ball a lot. I think that's going to give him a chance to do very well. But I have Mahomes as my offensive player of the year. Aaron Donald on the defensive player of the year. He's won it. He won it last year, and he's going to keep it rolling. There's some, I think, Lattimore, quarterback for New Orleans, can intrigue. Khalil Mack and Von Miller. Anytime you have elite pass rushers, and they could pop off and get a 20 sack type year, that's where they could be defense player of the year contenders. Kuechly at Carolina, if they surprise and move up the chart. So I think those are guys you have to look at as defensive player of the year candidates. But I'm going to go with Aaron Donald. Offensive rookie of the year, I was trying to pick out, and I looked at the draft class and positions. It's going to be Kyler Murray. He's going to put up a lot of numbers. I think it's a very weak offensive rookie class overall. So usually there's a running back that we're not thinking of that pops off and has a very 1,300 year, 1,300 yard year that we're not thinking of. But I think Kyler Murray is going to be that guy to win there. Defense Rookie of the Year, I have Quinnen Williams, the defensive lineman for the Jets. Talked about him earlier. I'm very optimistic for him. Bosa out of San Francisco. He's going to put up some numbers as well. And but those are guys I have Quinnen Williams winning that. Wentz, comeback player of the year as well. If he's going to put up MVP type of year, he's going to be comeback player of the year. And finally, coach of the year, I'm taking Mike Tomlin. As I mentioned earlier when predicting the Steelers to win the division, this is a year he needs to step up and show his coaching. The distractions of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, whatever level of distraction you want to say it is, they're not on the team anymore. People are questioning his leadership skills. I think he steps up and has a very big year for the Steelers. And then the rest of it's the usual suspects: Andy Reid at KC, Bill Belichick in New England. You just go down the line of all the potential guys that could be coaches of the year. And maybe Pete Carroll out of Seattle. He gets some love for getting him into the wild card. Freddie Kitchens with the Browns. If the Browns are a playoff team, he's going to get consideration, of course. But overall, I think it's going to be Mike Tomlin. He's going to find a way to be that coach of the year. All right, we're going to take one final break. I think our only break of the show. And we're going to talk some college football here on the Sports Inquirer show / Gridiron Blitz football preview extravaganza. All right, we're going to finish up the show on some quick college football thoughts. Sun Belt Conference, we'll start off there. Yeah, Georgia State, very big win over Tennessee this one last weekend. And tomorrow on September 7th, they're going to host Furman to attempt to stay undefeated on the season. Make sure you check out our site. And we have our exclusive interview with Sean Elliott, the head coach, and Trey Barnett from the Georgia State Panthers after the Tennessee victory. So head on to there, check all of that out. I think it'd be I said before the season that they could be a bowl-eligible squad. I still believe that. They get 6 wins. I don't know if they're going to be an 8 or 9 win team. I just don't think that's going to be in their situation. If you look at the Sun Belt, very underrated conference. It's not a Power 5, I get that. But there's some tough teams ahead for the schedule for the Panthers. But I think winning at home against Furman, who are nationally ranked in the FCS, I know it's the old 1AA as far as division, but they're a very good team, and it should be a very good contest. But Georgia State, I think they'll be excited to play at home. You potentially hope you look at the letdown factor, but I don't think we're going to see that. I think Coach Elliott has them very focused on not letting that Tennessee win go to waste. And I just think the way they operate, especially with their line play, and that was the most impressive aspect of that Tennessee win, controlling the line of scrimmage. If you have a good line, that helps control and calm everything down. And I think they'll do a pretty good job against the Furman squad. ACC, South Florida visits Georgia Tech. So it's Georgia Tech's first home game under a new head coach, Jeff Collins. The Yellow Jackets had a rough go of it at Clemson to open the season, but now they face South Florida squad who lost at home to Wisconsin by a very big margin. You have to figure you're going to see the offense open up a little bit more against South Florida. We saw a very limited offense for the Yellow Jackets, understandably so. You're going on the road, opening game Thursday night at Clemson. It's not time to whip out the 3 or 4 wide sets. We're not necessarily going to see that now, and I think they're going to work towards that. But I think Georgia Tech, you'll see some more pass options. You'll see a lot more play with the tight end, little short options there. And I think they'll find a way to win that contest. Big non-conference game for the SEC or the ACC, little combo action. And Texas A&M heading to Clemson. I think it'll be a very fun contest. first team to 45 wins. I think A&M has the offense to compete with Clemson and could put up some points. We saw that last year in the game. But I think Clemson, their defensive line, they lost so much talent. Those guys are still developing. So I think defensively, the Tigers are going to give up some points. But I think offensively, I think Trevor Lawrence will bounce back. He had an okay game against Georgia Tech, and we were saying, oh, he's bad. No, he's still a sophomore. He's not perfect. He's still developing, and I think that he is going to have a much better game. I think Travis Etienne. And by the way, it's Etienne or Etienne. Etienne is not the way to say that name. My real first name is Etienne, and it's really a weird deal with I need to break that down in another show. But it's Etienne. That's the proper way to say it in French. But then my mother Americanized it and calls me Etienne. That's not how you pronounce it, but some people go by that. The Etienne is not the right way to say that name. And I hear all the announcers when they say it, it's like Etienne. No, it's Etienne. Get it right. But anyway. But Travis is going to have a very big game, I think, for the Tigers at running back, and I think they'll find a way to win that game. The rest of the conference, Syracuse goes to Maryland. The Orange, I think, should be able to handle the Terrapins pretty handily there. Miami at North Carolina, in-conference game early in the year is always tricky, and Hurricanes are going to want to bounce back after that loss to Florida. North Carolina wants to continue the momentum after that big win over South Carolina at the Belt Classic or in Charlotte. I think that the Hurricanes find a way to win the game. But if North Carolina can win this contest, 2-0, first two games under the returning head coach, Mac Brown, that'd be a good look for them. But I think the Hurricanes find a way to win that game. And believe it or not, I think the Florida State Seminoles host Louisiana Monroe on Saturday. I want to say it's upset alert. If it was Louisiana, not Louisiana Monroe, I would say that. But I think the Seminoles, if they have any pride or any respect for Willie Taggart, their head coach, or just self-respect, you got to beat up Monroe, the Hawks, by a very big margin. And I think it might be another struggle, but I think the Seminoles find a way to win that game. And then the SEC, Georgia hosts Murray State. I think the Bulldogs are they're going to win the game, obviously. I think you'll see some more passing from them as well. I think you see Jake Fromm go and focus more on throwing to his new receivers. People are criticizing the win over Vanderbilt and saying that Georgia's offense was too conservative and they did not show enough. Because I'm Vandy alum, that's my squad, those are my people. But when you're on the road in the SEC, the first game of the season, and you have that offensive line and those running backs, you run the ball as much as you can, keep it simple, and get out of there with the victory. And that's what Georgia did. And, yeah, when you have Swift and you have Zeus, those running backs who are top talents, and that line led by Andrew Thomas, you run the ball and keep it straightforward. They're going to do the same thing as Murray State at home this Saturday, but I think they'll have more opportunities to pass the ball as well. This is the type of game where everyone gets at home so everyone can dress. Even the freshmen, they get their first taste of college football. Georgia rolls in this contest pretty easily. And let's see, we have BYU at Tennessee. After losing to Georgia State at home, you got to figure that the Vols, similar to Florida State, if you have any respect for your head coach and Jeremy Pruitt or pride, you got to whip BYU pretty handily. Now, BYU is a respectable team. They're strong, very competitive against Utah 2 weeks ago. But in the end, you got to win that contest if you can. Tennessee, they'll never have an in-season. Well, I say never. It's college football. You can't say never. They're less likely to have an in-season firing, and they won't do that. But if you look at the schedule of Tennessee, especially when you have to figure they face Georgia, Florida, and also Alabama, and that's just their schedule's very rough. So if they have any hopes of being a bowl-eligible team, which they may need to be to keep Jeremy Pruitt to keep his job, they got to beat BYU, and I think they'll find a way to do that. Arkansas is at Ole Miss. The Razorbacks struggled against Portland State at home. Now they go to Ole Miss. The Rebels lost at Memphis last week. Both teams, if they want to find a way to crack that 6-win mark in the highly competitive SEC West, you got to win this game. I think the loser of this game will not reach bowl eligibility. which is a lot, which is hard to say in only game 2 of a season. But you just look at their schedules and the way things lay out, must win for both squads. I'll take the home team, Ole Miss, to win that contest. And then we have LSU at Texas. Very fun game, border war between two talent-rich heavy states in Texas and Louisiana. A lot of rivalry there as far as recruiting. And a lot of Texans on the LSU squad and a lot of Louisiana residents. I think that's how you say it. Louisiana residents on the Texas squad. So that's always a fun battle. They don't play enough. I think they've only played 12 or 13 times in the history of their schools, which is not enough. In the end, I think that Texas finds a way to win at home. I like LSU. I think Burrow's a very good quarterback. But I'm gonna say Texas. It's in Austin. I think they emerge with the victory. So we'll see what happens there. And that's going to conclude our show today. Thanks for listening. I'm very excited that you are following everything that we're doing here on the Sports Inquirer. We will have some more shows coming up in a very near future. We'll continue to do some Gridiron Blitz shows, which are really football specific, which this one turned into. As we're recording this, still trying to figure out how we're going to name this show. I think we'll call it Sports Inquirer Show, Gridiron Blitz in the parentheses. But very thankful that you're listening to the show. And as always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, go to thesportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. Twitter and Instagram, Sports Inquirer, that's all one word. Facebook, The Sports Inquirer. And finally, subscribe to us on YouTube and SoundCloud under The Sports Inquirer. Until next time, good fight and good night.